have Ben, and he's out challenging all sorts of people out there. And he goes out there, and I'm like, who would want to go out there and talk to these people? Not me, but I'm glad there is somebody. As he said, we were talking before, and I've seen him at multiple events, so we've been able to chat a little bit, and he said, each of us has our own place. I do this, and he does that. I like my job better. Anyway, he's a friend of Thea's, and he was here 2 years ago, and at that time, he was in the Darien Gap, he was traveling through, we saw a lot of what he was doing at that time. So we're going to have some videos up here, and the first video is kind of going to talk about what was happening at that time a little over 2 years ago. It's crazy where things are at now, thanks to President Trump. But you want to get started then?
Heads up, y'all. Heads up. Ben Bergquam with his camera.
Truth coming through. Heads up. This is suicidal to take up with your kids. It's child abuse.
Mexicanos, this is no bueno.
There he is with his pistol.
Going over this right here,
and
crossed out of this tunnel. This is the hardest part.
¿Puede regalar agua?
Yeah, un momento. I'm gonna give him all the water I have.
We're fighting a losing battle right now.
We get to do some pretty cool stuff too.
Don't touch. Don't touch. You're not gonna break anything.
They want to tell you what you can and can't do.
There was people there that is bad guys.
This could get violent in a heartbeat, man.
They just feel evil. Now you've got a prison that is focused on rehabilitation. This is one of 56 locations. You've got all these scooters, some stolen, no license plate, all parked illegally. Another historic hotels, they said over 1,000 people in it right now. That's what we're inviting in, guys. This is the reality of open borders.
We are doing this for all of you guys. Stay tuned.
This is an invasion. This is an invasion.
Law and Order.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me again. When Debbie reached out, I was like, absolutely, I'll come back. So it's my whole calling, and I won't go through the speech I did last time. So those that were at it, don't get bored by it all, but I will give you a little bit of the background just for those that weren't at it. My calling in life is God, family, and country, and shining light in the darkness. I started out in California in college, and I saw the direction that our country was going. Parents were missionaries in Africa. Spent 10 years over there when I was a kid, and so saw what real poverty looks like, not the made-up stuff we talk about here in America. And saw that our country that was once a great nation, when I first started, now we're celebrating 250 years, had eroded into something that our founders wouldn't recognize, that many that are even still alive, a lot of our veterans wouldn't recognize from when they were young, and even that I didn't recognize. I grew up, we left Africa and went to California 30 years ago, and that was actually, California was a great state to live in at the time. And then it went to hell. We allowed it through terrible policies, radical leftist policies, to become a cesspool of degeneracy and lawlessness and just really watched a great state turn into a place that very few people want to live anymore. And it really saddens me. And I see that in Illinois, and I see that all over our country, unfortunately. But I was also watching that, and I said, well, where are the people standing up, fighting back against this? And at the time, God had just turned my life around. I was in college. I got involved with the Tea Party. That was kind of my first proving ground. And then I went off and turned my life around the wrong direction, became a crack addict for a few years after college, and was living a double life my wife didn't know about. And I kept praying that God would break the chains and set me free, but that she wouldn't find out. And it was the night that I came clean to her that I heard the Lord say, there's a verse in Peter, I'm paraphrasing, husbands, honor your wives lest your prayers be hindered. And I heard the Lord tell me that, and he said, you kept praying she wouldn't know, and she was the only one that needed to. And my chains were broke. That was 10 years ago this October. And God immediately, within 2 weeks, put me back on this track. The Bible talks about restoring the years the locusts have taken. I experienced that in real time. And so that's the initial call. And I've gone through a lot through that journey. So when I got put on this journey, I'd just come out of this place where I thought I was either going to end up in prison or dead. And so then it was like, all right, Lord, what do you want to do with my life? And that's where I just started going out and doing what I felt God called me to do. That was confronting the evil that I saw. And initially it was God, Family, Country, kind of the broad, my original organization in college was called Patriots for America's Independence, and it was Faith, Family, Freedom. And so we would go after the communist churches, shout out to a non-communist church, and actually Bible-believing, gospel-teaching place of salvation, not a woke, leftist, social justice club that we see all over the country. And so that was my first call, was to go and say, expose these churches, because everything starts with that foundation. And it's going to come full circle tonight. That was, we had it all over the state at the time. In California, we had the Prop 8 fight. That was a big part of that, fighting Obama, his first term. Unfortunately, he won that, but I always say the one thing I thank Barack Obama for is giving us President Trump. Because without Barack Obama, we wouldn't have had the Tea Party. Without the Tea Party, we wouldn't have had MAGA. And so thank you, Barack, and to all the cameras out there, for that one thing. Not for that monstrosity you have downtown Chicago, the so-called museum that we just went to visit. But that was it. It was, looking at the insanity of the world and not seeing anyone on our side that had the balls to say anything about it. I mean, in California, the Republican Party was and still is basically a neutered, Stockholm Syndrome, battered partner. Wife, spouse, whatever, whatever you want to call it. They're so afraid of being called names, like these idiots out here, God bless them, they need Jesus. They're miserable, they need Jesus. Ironically, they hold signs that talk about Jesus, but they don't know Jesus. And if they knew Jesus, then they wouldn't be aborting babies and pushing for all sorts of sexual deviancy and supporting lawlessness. And so basically everything you see is fruits of our beliefs. And so when you look at some of these places that are preaching what they call love, when the fruit is poison and rotten, it doesn't matter what they say, it's the fruit that they live by. And so I still am focused on that, but over the years, I was going out, I was confronting the left, doing it all independently initially. So imagine this, I went from being a crack addict, coming clean to my wife, and then God said, hey, get back on this track. Now you need to convince your wife that you're not going to have an income for 2 years, and God's calling you to this path, and she's just going to have to trust God and trust you after you just lost all the trust she had for the first 10 years of your marriage. And that's what we did. So we went 2 years with no income, simply relying on God to provide, and every single month God provided in ways that you'll be able to read about in my first book that's coming out in a couple months. But it was truly a journey from what I wanted to do to knowing what God had called me to do, to then seeing my wife and us coming together as the one person that He had called us to be, to where we are today. And a lot of people always ask me, how do you do what you do? And I always start with that. Well, be willing to give up everything and not have an income and trust in the Lord. If you can do that, you might be able to do what you're called to do. If you can't do that, you might want to look for something else to do. Because it's not always easy. It doesn't always start that way. Along that journey, I was actually in Redlands, California, and I met my first angel mom. For those that don't know, angel moms are, and dads and angel families are individuals that were murdered, family members of individuals that were murdered or killed by illegal aliens. And I didn't realize this was a thing. I went to Fresno State, got undergrad there, got my master's there. I had illegals that were getting full ride scholarships to the university, and that irritated me, but it wasn't enough to make it my primary issue. I still, it was still the crumbling of the church that was the biggest issue. When I met Agnes Gibney and her story, and then I met another angel mom, and another angel dad, and an angel sister, and an angel brother, and I thought, well, how the heck can we be in a country, the greatest country in the history of the world, and we have politicians that care more about illegal aliens than they do about American citizens? And how do we not know about this? How is the mainstream media not telling us about this? So I just started doing that. Before I do that, though, I want to play, Jack, if we can play number 8. So those of you that, most of you know what an angel mom is, but anytime one of these lunatics that's outside right now starts screaming about separating families, I want you to take this video. I shared it with Debbie. Jack has it. You can get it on my social media. Take this video and share it with them.
My daughter Sarah Root was killed at age 21. She had just graduated from Bellevue University outside of Omaha, Nebraska, with a 4.0 in criminal investigations. She was out celebrating with friends. She was on her way home when she was rear-ended by illegal alien Edwin Mejia, who was driving 70 plus miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone, street racing, drunk driving. His blood alcohol was 0.241 when he rear-ended Sarah and caused her brain death.
He was sitting on a sofa and an illegal immigrant came in the front door, shot him 3 times and then left. The owner of the home came home about that time, and my son was holding a pillow to his chest and said he'd been shot, call 911. While he was waiting there to call 911, the shooters returned. And one of my son's friends, Stephen Marler, was standing against the door holding the door shut. And the immigrant shot through the glass in the door, shot Stephen once in the head, and Stephen died instantly. He fell to the floor, and the immigrant pushed the door open past the body and came in and continued to unload on my son. He had to reload multiple times. He shot my son 26 times.
My name is Laura Wilkerson, and my youngest son was Joshua Wilkerson. And I sent him to school one day, and he did not come back. An illegal alien tortured him, brutally beat him in the head with a closet rod till it broke in 4 pieces. He kicked him so hard in the stomach that it sliced Joshua's spleen in 2. He then strangled him and let him go to see if he was breathing, and he did that until death. Then he tied Joshua up like an animal with 13 ropes around his neck to his hands and feet behind his back, and he put Joshua in our truck, and he drove around town and bought $2 worth of gas, and then he put Joshua in a field and set him on fire.
We were on our way to dinner. An illegal alien from Honduras, Luis Alberto Rodriguez, ran a red light. He was drunk, causing a crash in which my brother died instantly. I was critically injured and airlifted to Norfolk, Virginia.
What do you miss most about Ronald?
His hugs. His hugs and him telling me I love you, Mommy. Even though he was 29 years old.
I'm the mom of Dominic, German chocolate. He was born in Germany. And love of my life, my only child, my best friend. Shared a household with him for the last 10 years of his life and just enjoyed being with him every minute. And on July 12, 2012, he was on his way to work. He was a sheriff's employee for the county of Riverside, California, as a dispatcher. And he was on his way to work on his motorcycle when an illegal alien with 2 DUIs, 5 weeks prior was his second one, and 2 felonies, armed robbery, grand theft, took his unregistered and uninsured truck, and he was close to the legal drunk limit, turned his truck in front of Dominic and killed him instantly. Hit him so hard that it killed him right away, and it threw his body into a wall on the sidewalk.
So my son Matthew Denise was 23 years old when he was killed by an illegal alien. He had graduated college 3 months prior to his death. Matthew aspired to be a police officer. He had taken the civil service exam, and after he was killed, I found out that he would have been called up in the next hiring phase by the police department in my town. Matthew was riding his motorcycle home in a residential area when an illegal alien who had been drinking all day long, he was drunk, driving without a license, and had a criminal record, ran through a stop sign and collided with Matthew's motorcycle. Since it was a residential area, it was a low-impact collision, and Matthew landed on the hood of the truck and rolled off and survived it with just some scrapes and bruises. When Matthew was getting up out of the road, the illegal alien decided to flee, and he ran Matthew over. Matthew got caught in the whale well and was dragged a quarter of a mile to his death.
February 24th, 2017, he had a bad day at work. He went for a ride on his motorcycle to unwind. Jimmy was doing everything right, man. He had on boots, he had on jeans, leather jacket, full face helmet, gloves, doing 35 miles an hour, and an illegal coming the opposite direction, running 65 and a 30, lost control of the car and hit him. They say it killed him instantly. It cut his carotid artery. And my son's death was not an accident. No Angel family's death was an accident, because every one of them was 100% preventable.
And that's the reality. The sad reality is that those are just a few of the stories, and they go on and on and on. When I started my radio show in Fresno on the Salem Network years ago, I started with Angel Family Stories, and every day I would have a different angel mom come on or dad come on, and Laura Wilkerson. And every day I was crying. It was just because I've got kids, and so I think about, what you have all these illegals talking about, or these leftists talking about family separation, quote unquote. That's family separation. It's permanent separation that was completely, as you heard at the end, completely preventable. What we're doing in our country right now, we have politicians who've sworn an oath to uphold the same oath that our veterans that are in here. By the way, if you're a veteran, do you mind raising your hand? Thank you, guys. I get to do what I do because of you. So I truly appreciate that. But you swore that same oath that these politicians swear, and when they intentionally break that oath, and that's what they're doing. You have politicians like Gavin Newsom, where I came from in California, or here, Brandon Johnson, or this scumbag that I went and confronted last night, Lash, and I'll try to keep my bad language in church to a minimum, but he's a total scumbag. Or Pritzker, all of these guys that pretend to care about people, they don't. They care about votes and power. And if it doesn't advance their political agenda, then they really, truly don't care about it. So that was what got me started. And I just went out and I said, okay, well, nobody's doing this. I may as well go and do it. And I had no journalistic background. My undergrad was kinesiology, exercise science, so I was a fitness trainer. I was working tactical fitness with guys all over California, and then I finished my MBA and went into corporate retail, and that's when my life turned upside down, and lived that double life for 3 years, and then turned my life back around, and it was like, all right, let's go. And so that's been the last almost 10 years of my life, from President Trump when he went down the escalator. And I wasn't, at that point, I still wasn't sure about the guy. I'm like, okay, he's a Manhattan Democrat. Now he sounds right. He's saying all the right stuff. And honestly, what it was I just believe what he's saying. So many politicians, I just don't believe what they're saying. Most of them are lying. It's because most of them are lying. They care more, again, about getting into office than they care about actually doing what they said they were going to do. And I'd much prefer, this goes out to all the politicians out there, anyone aspiring to be a politician, I'd much prefer you tell me the truth and I disagree with your position than you lie to me and then you stab me in the back. And this is why I say, like in California, we have these Democrats and we have the rhinos. I would much prefer like these guys. I mean, they'll tell me exactly what they think of me. I walked out there, they told me exactly what they think of me. There's no sugarcoating it. I'd much prefer that that than somebody lying to me, like you get from the rhinos on the Republican side, and then stabbing me in the back. At least these guys stab you in the front. Hopefully not today, but metaphorically speaking. And that's, to me, it's worse. So to all the politicians, and I would say California is the worst, but I've been to Minneapolis and I've been to Chicago, and you guys are all competing for the worst. So, good job on you. But speaking of that, my friend Mark Warmiller, we just went down to Sheridan Gorman's location. Yes, our local, my local travel guide. If you don't know him, amazing guy. First guy that brought me here and started showing me around. We went down to Sheridan Gorman's, where she was murdered by another illegal alien that nobody seems to care about in Chicago. I mean, this was less than 2 months ago. We went there yesterday, and the media could care less. And so I just started doing it. I'm like, okay, if CNN's not going to do it, MSNBC is not going to do it. And not only do they not do it, they lie about it. I don't have the video to play tonight, but you can go back and look it up. If you go on my social media, look up the video, More Trash Than Sand. It actually was part of that intro video. When you looked at that big, beautiful beach with the palm trees, it was down in the Gulf of America, formerly the Gulf of Mexico, thank God for President Trump. And we're down there, and we're on this place that was paradise on earth before we went through the Darien Gap the first time. And I was told by the tribe, the Guna Indian tribe down there, that CNN had just, not CNN, the New York Times had just been down there a couple weeks before. And they're reporting, I'm like, oh, I wonder what they're saying about this environmental disaster that's being caused by illegal immigration, that's being invited by all these crazy politicians. All they talked about was the injustice that these people are experiencing in their home country, which some of them are, and climate change. Those were the two things. Those were their priorities. It was climate change that caused this, totally ignored the actual environmental disaster. So I started looking at that, and I just started filming. I'm like, okay, they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And that was the catalyst. And so I started going down. I'm going to play a couple of videos from my last, some of you guys might be a little bit redundant for you. And I bring this bag. My wife always says, why don't you just put it in a trash bag? Just get something better. But I'm a simple guy, so this is, I call it show and tell. But I always like to show what we found on the way. If we can play the second video, I believe, that one. So this is for, again, if you've already seen this, it's kind of worth watching. And I'll have you, let's do the first part of it. So this is our second trip through the Darien Gap. The beginning of this, and let me know if I'm going too long, because I could go for a long time tonight. But this is in the Darien Gap. These guys have just been robbed.
Nos robaron, y anoche nos robaron también. Anoche fueron 4 y ahorita 3.
¿A qué tan larga distancia están?
Ahorita como 15 minutos. No sabemos por qué se la llevaron para el monte, para allá, para la montaña, hermano.
3.
My money.
¿Son agresivos?
Sí.
Son muy agresivos. Yeah, you speak English?
Yeah, that's I'm
Where are you from?
I'm from Eritrea, East Africa.
Eritrea, okay.
East Africa. Guys was well armed, that's with the, what they call the small gun.
Yeah.
And then they shifted us somewhere there along the roadside. And they asked us what we have to give them what we have.
No te van a hacer nada. ¿Sí? ¿Cómo te sientes? Todo va a estar bien. Ahorita los van a agarrar. ¿Qué te hicieron?
Todo, no dejaron sin nada.
¿Te quitaron la ropa? ¿Te
Oh,
violaron?
sí, la desnudaron delante de todos nosotros.
No, pero la desnudaron completa.
La abrió su parte y todo, sí.
Todo. ¿Te abrieron tus partes?
Sí. Él la puso que se abriera.
That's the
No
guy
tiene
that
cabello
is
amarillo, pero tiene los ojos claros.
raping, abusing the women.
Ah, sí,
It keeps going. You got to get the idea. So again, to all the leftists out there talking about humanitarianism, and Jesus was an immigrant, they said. By the way, he was not an illegal alien. At the time when they escaped Herod, they went to another part of Rome to get away from him. It was still the same country. So any of these communist churches that say Jesus was an illegal, well, they would never use that word. They'd say he's an immigrant. But he was not illegal. His parents were not illegal. Bottom line, though, is you're not a humanitarian if you support open borders. What open borders does is it gives people into the cartel's hands. It gives people to the worst human beings on the planet. So these guys, and if you remember in the intro video where the shootout happened, so this was, I'm not going to play all that again, we've got too much to get to tonight, but this was 15 minutes from that location. Those guys had been raping and robbing people all day. We were, actually multiple days. We had been there, we were doing a reverse trip that nobody had done before, so we had done one trip across the Darien, And then we're like, man, that really sucked because we got stuck with one group and it was just hell on earth. I'm like, why don't we go in reverse? I'm like, never coming back into this jungle again unless we can go in reverse. And so we convinced the Center Front, those are the Panamanian Special Forces, it's like their Border Patrol BORTAC, our version of BORTAC. And we convinced them to take us in the opposite direction. And we started out in a little village, same thing if you saw that in the video where that Sea of Humanity. That was a tiny Guna Indian village that had about 250 people that lived there permanently. Every day it became about 5,000 that were coming through that were being transferred by the United Nations, Catholic Charities, Jewish Family Services, Lutheran Social Services, all of these NGOs pretending to be godly and then handing them over to the cartels. So we started there and immediately we got word there's rapers and robbers in the jungle. They're robbing people, they're raping people, they're murdering people. And so that's what we were walking into the jungle with. They're a day and a half up the trail. We stayed one night in the jungle. Now they're 6 hours up the trail. Now they're 4 hours, 3 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes up the trail. And that's when we got in the shootout. As we got in the shootout, they actually had one girl that they were taking her clothes off. They were about to rape her as well. One of the guys ended up shooting her in the stomach as he ran, and then he shot back at Center Front. Center Front shot and killed him, and then they captured 2 other ones. Those guys were the guides for the Gulf Cartel out of Capurganá, Colombia. So they worked in the Coakley, Colombia. So on the Colombia side, that's where all the cartels, Gulf Cartel that runs from Colombia all the way up to our southern border in Brownsville and McAllen and Matamoros. That cartel was leading people through the Darien. Well, when those guys were off, the coyotes, they knew all the spots where all the illegals were going, and so they'd just go make extra cash by raping and robbing, and if you refused to pay, murdering people. So that was the reality of those open borders. And I show this, and again, if you're at my last one, a couple of the things I'm going to talk about tonight are somewhat redundant, but they're important enough to talk about again. This we affectionately call a rape kit. So our first trip, we started in Nacocli, Colombia. Myself and Oscar Ramirez, you saw him in the video, an amazing guy, lives in Tijuana, lives in the middle of this nonsense. We went down there and we were in Nacocli, Colombia, which used to be like this paradise village that you would go and travel and go to the jungle and see all kinds of cool stuff, which has been taken over by the cartel. There's so much, the cartels and the NGOs, so it's a coordinated effort. This was the United Nations, OIM, and then this leftist care organization, another NGO. They were handing these out to the women and children. They were, again, they call them rape kits. They were filled with birth control, morning after pills, condoms, and a whistle for the women because they knew they were going to get raped. We talked to Border Patrol when Biden was in office, actually in between. We always asked them, like, okay, what's the percentage of women that get raped as they're coming up? And it's very simple, they said. If you're a woman, you get raped. If you're pretty, you get raped multiple times. So basically, it's a foregone conclusion, you're going to be raped no matter what. And so instead of saying, and the NGOs know that, instead of saying, hey, we recommend against this, there's a legal path to do this, I know your country sucks, but this is not the way to do it. These organizations that claim to be humanitarian say, here, you're going to get raped, but try to get the rapist to put the condom on, and if that doesn't work, make sure you're taking your birth control, and if you're worried about it, take that morning after pill. That is humanitarianism from the left. Along with that, we started collecting documents. So one of the things you guys hear about a lot is the people coming over, the so-called Haitians, people coming there claiming asylum. And the truth is, many of those people, some of them actually have justifiable asylum claims. It's a very small percentage, under 10%. The vast majority have been coached by these same organizations to lie to Border Patrol when they come in and to tell them a story that gets them into our country. And under Biden, what you used to have to do was declare this at the first safe country that you come to. If that wasn't America, then you had to stay in that first safe country. If it was America, then you had to declare yourself at the border before you crossed. Under Biden and the Democrats, they realized, well, if we can get them into our country, it's much harder to get them back out of our country. And so that's why you saw the massive numbers, and you guys were epicenter. After they left the border, they came to places like Chicago. The same NGOs that were handing out rape kits and were guiding them all the way up through the border were there to receive them because they were getting $1,500 and up per person per day to when they got those contracts. So again, the 9 primary NGOs, hundreds of subsidiaries that were underneath them, all getting pumped money, full money. And we actually interviewed the illegals when they started dumping IDs. And I can't imagine dumping my passport. So when we started seeing these, I'm like, why would you possibly be doing this? So we went across into Mexico and started interviewing them. And they told us, because they've been coached, they've been told by these NGOs that that's the way you get in. Because if you're coming, if you lived in Haiti 10 years ago, but you moved to Chile, and you got asylum in Chile, or you moved to Brazil, those were the 2 primary countries that the Haitians were going to, and you got asylum in those countries, you don't qualify for asylum in America. So you have to dump that ID when you come across the border. In the years that I've been doing this, it's almost 10 years now, I have not met a single Haitian from Haiti. Every single one that I've met, and it's hundreds, have all been in either Chile or Brazil. But they got the word that the border was open, that the Democrats were inviting them up, and all they had to do was dump their IDs. Now the irony of this didn't turn out so well for them, a lot of them, because they actually started getting some of them deported back to Haiti. And that was the last place they wanted to go. They had already been in a safe country, then they're getting sent back to Haiti. And so a lot of these flights that were going back to Haiti, there were fights on them. Where I was talking to ICE agents, and they're like, yeah, every single flight there's a fight, because that's the last place they want to go, back to voodoo and witchcraft and hell on earth, which is Haiti. And so anyway, so all of this is being said. So we just started covering this stuff, and I'm like, okay, why is nobody else talking about it? And the reality is, the reason they're not talking about it is because they don't want people to really know what's happening. If they did, they would tell you. I mean, the CNN and MSNBC know this. We report it. They don't push our reporting, but they see our reporting. And they know what's actually happening. They just don't want America to know it. And it's because they're controlled by the apparatus that's controlling these people out here. It's like, I was at the DNC. I don't know if any of you guys went to the DNC last year. Yeah, Chad. Yeah, my buddy Chad. Shout out to some of my Patriot friends. Larry, love you, brother. You guys are awesome. Appreciate you for being out here. I don't know if Terry has made it. He was dealing with something earlier, but okay, Terry's coming in. So, and all of you guys for coming out. Thank you for being patriots and having the courage, even though these people try to silence you. And a special shout out to Jack for having the courage to be a Black Robe Regiment church that is not afraid to stand up. So we're covering all this stuff, and I'm like, these guys obviously know what's happening, and they just are too afraid to say it. And it's because it's not the Democrat Party. And some of you may, actually this is another great poll. How many of you have ever been a Democrat in your life? Raise your hand. Don't be shy, don't be shy. There's nothing to feel bad about. Okay, about a quarter of you. The Democrats today are not the Democrats that you were. I can almost guarantee that, right? If you raised your hand, you would say that. What we have now is a radical, leftist, anti-American, anti-man, truly anti-humanity, communist, this combination. I say the Democrats, and I'll talk a little more about this a little bit later, but it's like the three-legged stool. It's communism, jihad, and cartels or transnational criminal organizations. That's basically what's holding up the Democrat Party today. So if you were just one of those compassionate people that, just saw the world differently, liked Social Security, liked unions, but still loved God and country, and still, thought that waving an American flag wasn't a bad thing, that party doesn't exist anymore for the Democrats. That it's this raging, rabid leftist, not even liberal anymore. We're the liberals now. Conservatives are the liberals. We're really the counterculture now. You may not feel like that, but we are. We are the think for yourself, challenge authority, what the hippie movement was without all the drugs and demons. So that's really believing in Jesus and loving your country is the counterculture today. And they want to destroy that. They don't want to compromise with it. So when you have these Democrats in Washington, D.C., other than Fetterman, ironically, who would have thought that Fetterman would have been a hero? My bingo card did not have that. Fetterman, I was like, man, he's going to be terrible. I guess getting your head hit a couple times and having some health issues, it really helped. I mean, he's an incredible guy right now. So we need more Fettermans on the Democrat side. Now, obviously, I want to get all MAGA. I want to get all Republicans that are MAGA. We got to get rid of the rhinos. But that's what we're up against right now. So when you hear all this, when you watch these leftist media outlets, all they're doing is parroting that. And I would even say it's the same reason why the Republicans in California and Illinois have been so neutered. It's the same reason why so many churches would refuse to do this event and wouldn't have the courage to do it. Same reason why businesses put BLM in their windows or put the trans mental illness flags in their windows. It's because they don't want to be attacked. It's not because they all agree with these ideas. It's not because they want penises in women's bathrooms, which is, that's what they're asking for. That's what they're saying. But most common sense people say, well, that just doesn't make sense. I don't want my daughter in a bathroom. But you can't say that now on the Democrat side. It's sacrilege to say things that average common sense people say, this just doesn't make sense. So that's the world that we're in right now and that we're battling against. And that's also why I sometimes push the envelope a little bit. And I think you have to. I mean, we're at a place now, if you're not engaged, and less about you guys in this room, more about the audience that's watching out there, if you're not engaged and willing to do what God has called you to do, it's my wife's ringtone too, do what God has called you to do, then you are part of the problem. This is a time, it's not, well, 10 years, the pendulum will swing back and it'll be, we'll get it back and it won't be as bad as it is now. I truly believe if we don't wake up, this is, this experiment of America that's lasted 250 years is on the razor-thin edge of being lost forever. And if America falls, the world falls. And Reagan talked about it. Every generation has this fight. It's every generation's fight. But we are so close. Had we not won this election, had President Trump not stopped the bleeding, and I know there's, divide on some of this, and talk more about that in a second too. But had we not stopped the bleeding at the border, I don't know if we could have fixed it. Had we not stopped the woke agenda of transgenderism, of communism, and that's what these guys are teaching now in universities. And I still, even with that, even with the reprieve that we have right now, we're this close, if we don't actually pass legislations, not just executive orders, from losing this country entirely. And again, I have people tell me this all the time, legal immigrants and even illegals. I look at this video and the women crying and the children crying, and it breaks my heart. I don't have any animus against the people that are coming here, even if they're coming here illegally. I disagree with it. I want them all deported, but God still loves them as human beings, as children of God. I still love them. A lot of them have just been lied to and said, hey, come this way, it's the easy way, and it's kind of human nature. You're going to take advantage of that. The people I blame are the ones that are inviting them. And if we do not change course in a hurry, it's over. And I don't want to be the sky is falling. What was the name of that cartoon? Chicken Little. I don't want to be Chicken Little, but I truly, you look at the stakes that we're in right now. You look at the universities, what they're teaching. You look at the protesters that are out. It's ironic. The same people that call me a Nazi are out there waving jihad flags, Hamas and Hezbollah flags, saying death to Israel and saying we're the Nazis. And look, I can get if you're not wanting to pump millions of dollars out of America and fund everyone else's wars. We're $40 trillion in debt. I get that. Like at some point, inflation is going to destroy us if the communists and jihadists don't. So we got to get that under control. But this crazy swing that we've had away from Israel as an ally to somehow Islam is an ally it's demonic. It's pure demonic. And so, again, I'm saying all of that just to preface, it's a bad state that our nation is in. I want to play a couple more videos just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So all of this happened. We had Barack Obama, gave us Trump. Then we had President Trump the first term. They tried to kill him. They tried to impeach him. I sat through all of that. They gave COVID to the world. They did mass illegal voting through vote by mail everywhere, stole the election, and everyone thought we were unable to get it back. Then they persecuted him, not prosecuted him. And I sat through those trials. I sat through both impeachments in the House and the Senate, and then I sat through the trials in New York. And I'm sitting there, and every day that I was in the trial, and he's walking out, and I just give him a thumbs up because he can't talk in court and he can't film. And I said, God bless you. God bless you. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, man, who the heck would want to do this? I mean, he's in his 80s. Who wants, if you're in your 80s, raise your hand If you want to take, finish the question. I'm not asking you to tell me if you're in your 80s, because I know no one's going to raise their hand. If you're in your 80s, would you want what Trump is having to deal with every single day? Now raise your hand. No. Of course not. I mean, I watch him. I deal with some crazy stuff. I get attacked and I do some stuff. I got nothing compared to what he goes through. And he doesn't have to do it. I mean, he could live a comfortable life, go off on a golf course, have a beautiful wife and beautiful kids and beautiful grandkids, and just live throughout the rest of his days and on an island somewhere and not have to deal with the world. And he chooses to go out and do what he's doing. And I believe because he loves this country so much. I truly believe that. And because again, no one would choose to do that. So that's what we're up against. We stopped it. Now, immediately after stopping, by the way, a couple more show and tells. These are just fun. And Debbie, just let me know if I'm like way over time. I'll suck it up a little bit. Quran. So we did find a Quran. We found some prayer mats that were down there because what don't we need more of in America? More jihadists. These are what we call carpet shoes. They're very literal. They're actually, this was from a market in Sonoita, Mexico, which is right across from Lukeville, Arizona. I got word from my friend Tim Foley in the video that they actually were catering to illegal alien runners that would dress up in all camouflage. The ones you saw in the video that had guns, those are the guys that don't want to get caught. So when you had all these fake asylum seekers coming over and turning themselves into the Uber for the cartels, aka Border Patrol under Biden, they would be taking all their resources, and a mile down the wall, you would have these guys in full camo that had either been previously deported or were criminals in their home country or had committed violent crimes in America, didn't want to be caught, or were terrorists. We know terrorists were coming across. I had one guy from Al-Qaeda that came across in Hakumba, and I had another guy, he was from Afghanistan, a guy from Iran, came up to me and said, hey, I love you, I watch you on War Room, was coming over from Iran. He's like, I'm escaping the Iranian regime. I'm coming here, but this guy in my camp that's in that tent right there, he admitted to me he's from Al-Qaeda. He told Border Patrol, his name's John Smith, that's not his real name. So I spent an hour and a half trying to get Homeland Security to get this guy to take a report to track him down because he was in our country at this point. Hour and a half, first guy I talked to was, sounded like he was from a call center from the Philippines. Wouldn't take the report, and again, this is somewhat redundant, but it's worth repeating. He wouldn't take the report because I didn't have the guy's full first and last name, his date of birth, and where he was currently residing. And I'm like, well, clearly I couldn't have that last one for sure. I have his real name and his fake name, and I have a high-resolution video of his face. Now, I know the technology. I'm not in the military. I'm not in any of the agencies. Although I did get called a Fed today, which was like the best compliment that I've ever been given. I've been trying to get Tom Homan to deputize me as an ICE agent. He hasn't done it yet, so I do it for free now, but if they ever wanted to pay me to do it, I'd be happy to do it. But I'm telling him all this stuff, and he says he won't take the report. So I spend another hour and a half by the end of this trying to get this report taken. Finally, the FBI field office, counterterrorism field office in San Diego took the report. They told me they tracked him down, but I still don't know if that guy is in our country or not, if they ever found him. We had thousands of illegal jihadists that hate America, that are openly saying death to America, come through our southern border under Joe Biden. Thousands, minimum thousands. The reality is we just don't know how many, but it's a staggering number of people. And the reality is we're going to find out. Tom Homan always says we don't know how many. What he's worried about is when we find out. And just about every day we're finding new attacks, new people, Allah Akbars out there that we're having to deal with. And that's going to continue for a very long time. All you have to do is go to Dearborn, or my friend Terry, where Bridgeview, where he grew up, where his Catholic church has been converted to a mosque. It's the same model that you see in Dearborn or Minneapolis, Broadview or Bridgeview or Plano, Texas. That model is happening all over our country. Again, not to scare everybody, but just look at what happened in New York. We went less than 25 years ago, we had the worst terror attack in American history, and now we have a communist jihadist mayor of that city. That's where we're at, and they love it. They love it. So we win the election. We've got minimum 20 million, so what they admit to is 11 million illegals, 11, 12 million that Joe Biden let in, and they did this paroled release and shipped them out to your neighborhoods. 50, every state in the country, even including Alaska and Hawaii. So they're all out there. The reality is with these guys, the runners, so those fake asylum seekers would come across. I didn't finish that story. I'm kind of ADD on my speeches, so hopefully you guys are tracking with me. So the fake asylum seekers come across. They take all Border Patrol's resources and time. The NGOs know that. The cartels know that. The Democrats know that. And unfortunately, either the rhinos are just useful idiots, or they know it and they're complicit in it as well. And then these guys come through. And they're all going to the same places, to your neighborhoods. There's a cartel pipeline. Chicago's one of the hubs. Houston is one of the hubs, so they all kind of go. Arizona, obviously, Phoenix is big. New York's big. But this actually, if you guys don't know, you have the claim to fame. The sanctuary movement started in Chicago. Not Elgin, but in Chicago. The Pilsen neighborhood, there's a communist leftist church that's over there, United Methodist Church. That is where the sanctuary movement really originated from. And then it's grown from there. And so these people, they actually, when they had, when Hugo Chavez died, they had a memorial in this so-called church for him. And now obviously Maduro. But this is the mentality of the people. So they're all coming across, they're going everywhere. We win the election, and I think, all right, thank God, now we're going after it. And that's exactly what President Trump did. I was there with Tom Homan in Chicago on the kickoff of the operations after President Trump was inaugurated. Almost immediately afterwards, we had the all-of-government approach. It was ICE, FBI, DHS, DEA, ATF, everybody was involved with it, and they were just kicking ass and taking names. They were going after all these guys. It was these surge operations across America. And then almost immediately, I'm like, wait a second, something's up here. And well, let's just play the video, and then we'll give you a good idea. So we're going to start the first one. Video number... Well, actually, let me play video number 3. So this was actually me and Terry Newsom. I still don't know if Terry's here yet. Is he here? Okay. This was me and Terry at one of these so-called migrant shelters. Actually, Mark Weirmiller was there with me as well, and a few others. Some of the awesome Southside black conservatives. Bob, a.k.a. King Israel, Pastor Dave Laurie, and some of these guys that saw what was happening in their own communities, and they said, okay, Democrats have been lying to us for 60 years. I don't know if I trust Republicans, but at least, you know, you're not giving away. One of them, King Israel, Bob Israel, said the best quote to me. He's like, you've been promising me 40 acres and a mule since slavery. I still haven't got it, but you're giving all of this stuff to the illegals. So that flipped a lot of the South Side and West Side. But so we're down there covering this. These guys were 3 Venezuelans. They were drug dealers, gang members, the TD8, Tren de la Agua. Roll my R's right. We invited all these guys up. So we started filming.
Venezuela?
Mexico? He lied. Oh, shocker.
¿Habla inglés?
No. Okay. So, Terry, you were filming the license plate. What happened?
Yeah, they told me not to film it. You?
No.
Well, no problem. No problem. You? What's wrong? Say what?
Soy reportero. It's America. It's America. It's a free country, guys. It's a free country. We can film in America. So this is interesting. So they don't want you filming their stuff in America. They're here illegally. ¿Habla inglés? No? No? Mexico or Venezuela? Huh? Okay, Venezuela or Mexico? All right, so this was a daily occurrence in all of these places. And if you want to get the stats on how bad it is in Chicago, talk to Terry. He started doing FOIAs on all these places, started getting all the police reports and the response from fire departments that they do not want you to know. It's thousands of reports beating their wives with guns, having firearms in the locations. Those are the ones that were actually reported. It's so bad. I mean, you can't even imagine how bad it was. And these jackasses, sorry, Jack, were saying it's no big deal. Like you guys, like you're crazy. I'm crazy. I'm just a hater. They call me a white supremacist, even though I'm married to a brown girl who came from Laos, escaped communism, did it the right way. They were actually real refugees or family. I was with her when she got her citizenship, and it's the most amazing thing. Loves this country, sees what's happening to this country, and there's a reason why legal immigrants hate this more than anybody, because they've actually had to do it. They love this country when they assimilate. So all this was happening. Then President Trump gets into office. Let's play Numberjack, Chicago kickoff number 4. So this was like, we're going into, so this is Tom Holman.
We're in Chicago, Illinois. We're going to arrest public safety threats. We got all of government approach. We got U.S. Marshals, we got FBI, we got ATF, we got DEA, we got ICE, we got HSI, we got them all here. So the president's plan of all of government to attack illegal alien crime in this city, we're going to address it today, starting now.
All right, so you can stop. All right, guys, 5 a.m. So if you want to watch some of that, you can watch it. Our last episode of Law & Border. If you don't watch Law & Border, you need to. You can go to americasvoice.news. You can binge watch. We have 6 seasons, 38 episodes. So all of this, if you haven't seen it, you can go see it. So this was kickoff, and I'm like, yes, we're going to go get these guys. I was shocked. So we're out there. We're sitting on these houses. Now, there's 2 types of arrest warrants that ICE has access to use. There's administrative and criminal. And almost all, the vast majority that they use are administrative. Criminal is only used if they're planning on prosecuting that person, that illegal, in America, and sending them back to jail, and then with the plan of deporting them after that jail sentence. The rest are administrative. And what that means is they call them knock and talks. So you can't actually go bust the door down to pick these guys up. You actually they have to let you in. I mean, how insane does that sound? So, nice illegal alien that raped and robbed somebody, would you please let me in? Oh, no? Okay, sorry, okay. I'll come back. That's literally what was basically happening. The same NGOs that were cashing in on the illegal aliens getting pumped around the country, they were making all this money, they were immediately weaponized with the illegals to then start obstructing. So when you see this nut job out here that's part of this rapid response network, what's that girl's name, Marie? I don't know, whatever her name is, crazy lady. Rush Limbaugh, one of my heroes, called her feminazis. I mean, they're crazy. It's this rapid response network. It's all over the country. So let's play. So I'm going to preface this, Jack, before we play it. I had sat at this house for 4 hours with ICE. We get up, these operations, we start super early, 3, 4 a.m. I'm not a morning guy, and so it's rough to get started, but it's worth it just to go get these guys. So we go out there, knowing that they're not going to answer the door, knowing that they've been coached by these NGOs at this point. This was about my 10th operation. And knowing that we can't get them unless they come outside to us. They can even come outside, and then they can run back in, and you still can't get them. Now, if they're chasing, then you can call a federal judge. You can get a warrant to enter the property. It's a total pain in the butt. It's rarely used. So these guys know that. The NGOs tell them. So we're on this scene. And you're not going to see all this. You have to go back and watch our last episode of Law & Order. All of this is on there, and all the beginning stuff is on there. We're sitting there, and within a couple hours, one of our vehicles gets spotted. And we start seeing these obvious liberals walking down the streets, and they have these little flyers. And by the way, everyone needs to take one of these. These are my counter to their stupid flyers. Take one of these with you before we leave. Don't let me forget. So they're going and putting these flyers in all the doors. And they're looking, and then they see us. And we're in the car. And they're like, that's weird. There's another one. And they're on their phone, and they're filming us. And then it starts going out to all the rapid response networks. And then within 20 minutes, there's 40 people out surrounding our vehicles. They've got their pots and pans. They've got their cowbells. They've got their megaphones. And they're out telling the community, you've got ICE in your neighborhood. Don't open your door. Don't come out. And they don't know who we're even after. So the guy that we were going after he had 2 felony convictions, weapons convictions. He was thought to be involved in at least 1 murder, more than likely multiple murders. He was from back of the yards. He was a Latin King, gang member, illegal alien from Mexico. He had shot and killed an illegal alien from Guatemala who they suspected was a rival gang member. They were just wrong place, wrong time, like that stupid city council woman said about Sheridan Gorman. But this girl was actually just in the wrong place at the wrong time, driving down this neighborhood. This guy pulled out his AK-47, shot her through the back of the car, went through her heart, killed her while she was FaceTiming her mom back in Guatemala. So the same idiots that say they care about people, that's the guy we're going after. He's in the house. We have visual of him. Our car gets surrounded, and then one guy comes, and he pulls up next to us, and he says, Hispanic guy, God bless him, he says, God bless you guys, I voted for this. And then the police that aren't able to work with ICE, that were called out by these people that hate the police, that want to defund the police, they called police out to try to obstruct our operation. Police end up pulling that guy over and arresting him for impeding traffic. So this is, I was sitting in the car, I'm like, I can't take any more of this. This is what happened after that. It's unbelievable, guys. This is the problem. I just want to make sure the media understands this is only happening because of these activists. The only reason that CPD is out here wasting all of these resources is because you have leftist activists.
It's about Chicago. This guy,
And this guy threatened federal agents, said the Second Amendment goes both ways. So this guy threatened federal agents. How many criminals do you want to keep?
You're one.
Rapists, murderers? How many criminals? No, I'm just asking you, seriously. How many criminals do you want in your neighborhood? Are you okay with rapists? Are you okay with murderers? These guys are trying to take criminals out of your neighborhood. What's that?
You think everybody?
Yes. Well, if you're here illegally. Now you got CPD who can't work with ICE because they're a sanctuary community who's out here dealing with one guy who actually supported, I'm sorry for this guy, he actually supports Trump. He stopped to say he supports us, and unfortunately he got caught up in the middle of it. And now all of these guys are out here. You're wasting tax dollars because these guys started protesting. So you have leftist agencies. You get the idea. All right. If that doesn't show you, so that was the first. So rapid response networks. By the way, put that in your phone. Take a note. Look them up. They need to be called out. They need to be infiltrated. To Debbie's point, we all have different callings. I'm called to do what I'm called to do. Each of us, it's like the body of Christ. We're all different parts of the body. And you don't necessarily have to do what I do, but we all can do something. These organizations need to be called out. They need to be exposed. If you're willing to, in some of the NGOs too, if you're part of a church that supports this kind of stuff, two options: either leave that church or infiltrate it and get the information, or talk to the pastor and say, hey, you may just be lost. You may have believed a lie. But if that doesn't work, those are the other options. We need people doing all of that because this is a cancer. It's destroying our country. And it is so embedded in our society that you can't just get rid of it. You can't just say, okay, these guys are bad. You're going to have to prosecute thousands of people across America. We're going to have the largest RICO case in American history. You know, you thought the mob was bad in Chicago? These guys are way worse. So this was Chicago. Let's go to Minneapolis. Let's go number 6. So I was on the first week in Minneapolis.
And this is what happened.
Negative 20. Can you pause it there, Pastor? Oh yeah, middle finger. So another Somali coming. I think she was Somali. I don't know. Anyways. So this was, I thought Chicago was bad because it took them a couple hours to find us. This was within 30 seconds. We were going to these locations, and so what I loved about President Trump, I love about Tom Homan and Bavino. If he has shout out, by the way, who in here loves Tom Homan and Craig Bavino? Amen. God bless him. I wish Greg was still in there. He was kicking ass. And so you had this two-pronged approach. You had ICE. And it was ERO, ICE, so there's two different, there's HSI, which is investigations, and ERO, which is removals, and then you have Border Patrol. And they were all working together, and they were all doing these different things. So you had some targeted enforcement, which is what most of what we're doing is, where you have a suspect, and you're actually going after that suspect, and it's taken weeks to build a case, and you've done surveillance, and you go, and then you're obstructed within 20 minutes because of these jerks. I wanted to use a worse word. So that's one side of it. And that's administrative warrants. Again, the majority of those. And you get to a point where you're like, man, can't do that anymore because it's just not working. So then you have to wait for them to come out of their house, try to catch them going to or from work or to or from committing a crime. And so that's basically what most ICE is doing now. Then we had what Greg Bavino's approach was it's called consensual encounter. And basically they have the ability to go and walk the neighborhoods, and if they have probable cause to check you for your immigration status, then they have the legal authority to do that. And guess what happens? Guess what is a dead giveaway for probable cause? If you run when you see that. It's one of the best giveaways. So, man, some of my favorite, we'd go to Home Depots, we'd go to some of these places, and it was like whack-a-mole. I mean, you pull up and it's choo-choo-choo, they're fast. And so we're chasing them and all this. It was awesome. I mean, we're like, the moral of the story is we can't fix this without all of these approaches because the problem is so bad. Biden let in 20 million is my rough estimate, conservative. There's probably 50 million here, conservatively. That's a sixth of our population that's here illegally. That's what we're up against. Another number. In LA, when I rode with LA, we had, at the time, they had 435 ICE agents. The population, the universe of potential targets that they knew about, these are targets that they could potentially go after, 1.2 million in the LA ARO. 435 guys and gals to catch 1.2 million illegals just in the LA area. That is undoable. I mean, it's impossible. You can't do that with just simple the standard tactics. So, and you especially can't do it when the politicians and your own police forces are working against you. And so that's what we started seeing in places like Minneapolis, in places like Portland. Compare that to, let's play number 7, Jack. It's 4:30 in the morning here in Miami, Florida, heading out with Miami ICE. God bless ICE. God bless America.
With the support that we get from the state and from the governor, we're leading an immigration arrest. Last month alone, the Miami field office arrested 3,296 criminal aliens.
You've got all these people out there protesting and marching against ICE. What would your message be to them?
This shows in reality what ICE does on an everyday to-day basis. We target criminal aliens and we try to remove the worst of the worst out of the US and send them back home.
God bless Florida. God bless Texas. God bless every red state that puts America first. I'm going to switch hats real quick. It's 4:30 in the morning. All right. Okay, yeah, I've probably less than that. I'll try to wrap it up quicker. So that's what we're up against. That is the situation on the ground. I was just out with Terry, got another illegal this morning, ICE was out. But same thing, they're going one by one, and they're doing, they're having to use multiple, today was 6 vehicles. And for one guy, they ended up catching 2, thankfully. But it's weeks of work, hours and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours of man hours just to get 1 or 2 guys. And we've got millions in our country. The big difference between can we do this and actually save America is the difference between conservative states like Texas and Florida and liberal hellholes like Illinois and California and New York. The obstruction that you guys have here between your politicians and your law enforcement and the people, these organizations that are allowed to break the law. In Miami, in all of Florida, you can't get within 25 feet of an operation, federal operation, law enforcement operation, or else you get arrested by the local PD. And Matt, that's a law in Florida. Imagine if that was the law all across America. That's the only state that has that right now. Every state needs to do that. Now here, I'd be shocked if we ever get that. But these people, when you have people like Mayor Lash, that's actually following ICE, doxing ICE, trying to interfere in ICE operations, we are not going to save this country until that stops. And there's really only 2 ways that that's going to happen. We're going to prosecute the hell out of these guys, and we're going to defund sanctuary jurisdictions. If we don't do those things, prosecute the organizations that are obstructing ICE and defund the sanctuary jurisdictions that are aiding and abetting the illegals. That's job number 1 for law enforcement. And this goes out to all the cameras. This goes out to the Justice Department. If you're not actively working on that, Cash Patel is a friend of mine. I was with him at War Room when he used to be with us. Real America's Voice. Amazing guy. Cash, we got to arrest these guys. We got to prosecute them to the DOJ, top branch. We got to arrest these guys. If we don't do that, it doesn't matter what we do in 2 to 4 years. Now, to you, that's the Justice Department. They have to do that. Every one of us needs to call on them to do that. To you, we have to win more seats in the midterms. Because right now, everything that you see happening, all the good and not so good, you know, some people are like, oh, President Trump's not doing enough. He can't do everything because he can't get the rhinos in the House and the Senate to actually vote on the laws. He can't just executive order everything. So we have to have a House and a Senate that actually will pass these laws, the executive orders, make them laws in our country. Or else, in 2028, if we get a Zoran Mandani as president, what you thought was bad under Barack Obama and Joe Biden is a appetizer for the real meal that's coming. These guys, and what really concerns me now is not now. It's if you go to Columbia University or you go to any of the universities in Chicago, any universities really across Ivy League universities across America, what they're being taught, 20 years from now, those communist, leftist, America-hating, man-hating, God-hating individuals are going to be running our country. And all you have to do is look at history, look at Mao's China, look at Stalin's Russia, look at Castro's Cuba and Venezuela, and that's how quickly it can happen. We can lose this nation that quickly if we don't wake up to it. And that's why, again, when I come to Chicago, one of the biggest frustrations I have, or anywhere in Illinois, is we spend more time fighting each other. We have, unfortunately, people that say they're on our side, that, again, we talked about earlier, that at least a Democrat stabs you in the front, they're stabbing you in the back. If you see that, there's 2 things that God has put on my heart to avoid. Division and distraction. Distraction for me was being a drug addict. Can't be a drug addict and be successful in God's kingdom. You got to get your life right with the Lord. Stay focused on His mission. And even some good things. Watch out for good things because they'll take you away from the great things. Focus on the calling that you have in your life. Laser focus. Avoid the distraction, but also avoid division. And anytime this comes, I get people reaching out to me. I had it today. Like, that message me and are trying to cause wedges in between what my calling is, in between people that I work with and all this. Man, I don't have time for that. I do not have a second to waste. You do not have a second to waste on stupid people that want to waste your time on things that do not matter. The lives of your children and your grandchildren and the children we haven't even thought about, the generations to come, depend on every single person in this room, every single person that's out there watching, and the patriots across this nation to have the courage to stand up and say, I'm not going to take it anymore. And that's how we save it. This is bad. There's a lot of bad. But I also believe in the God of the Bible, the God of miracles. And sometimes God did a miracle in my life. Sometimes it takes you getting to the bottom where you can't fix it on your own, for God to come in and say, that's why I'm here. Miracles happen when we can't do it on our own. I'm not a pastor, but I'd say that's really one of the definitions of a miracle. Because if we could do it, it wouldn't take God's hand. And so I believe in God's providence. I believe this nation was built for a purpose. I believe we were called to that. We were clearly a Judeo-Christian nation, but we're not being run as a Judeo-Christian nation. We have that foundation, but we don't have the politicians to run it. And if you haven't seen the video, one of my heroes in politics was Charlie Kirk. I worked closely with him. He actually grew up not far from here. Incredible guy that brought God and politics together in a simple way that got children to understand and planted more seeds for the kingdom than anybody else I think will ever happen in my lifetime. And I was actually here when he got murdered. I got the call and I was like, man, that can't be right. The devil took him out because he thought he'd be able to silence him. And my prayer is very simple. It's for the millions of seeds that Charlie planted that are in universities, the conservative counterculture across America, that are going to grow into the trees of liberty and are going to bear the fruit that God has called them to, the good fruit that He's called them to. That is my prayer. And that's my prayer for everyone in this room, that we speak life, we bear fruit, and it's good fruit and not rotten fruit. And if we do that, we win. But we cannot be weak, cowardly Christian Republicans anymore. We have to be lions. We have to be lions of Judah, or else we're going to lose it. And I'm not ready to lose it.
Can you talk about the Christian NGOs that are part of the problem? Why are they involved?
It's a great question. I actually had an interview, and all of this stuff you can find on my social media. Look up, I don't remember the exact name of it, but I have a friend who was actually involved with one of the NGOs that was part of the refugee resettlement, the unaccompanied minors program. She was still involved with it when I interviewed her. And I had to blur out her face because she would have been targeted by the organizations if they found out what she was saying. And she just boiled it down real simply. A lot of these organizations started off good, but they were corrupted by money. And the vast majority of what you see, there are some great people. I have friends in the Catholic Church. I have friends in some of these churches. It's hard to find. But I actually know some good Lutherans. That, might shock some of you guys. But there are some good people in some of these organizations, but they've been so corrupted by the money that it's hard to get away from. And just another statistic for you, as the Catholic Church goes. So they lost about $3 billion when it came to all the molestation cases a few years ago, when those went through. It's about what they've made back on trafficking people through the refugee resettlement program. So about $3 million was as of Biden's last year in office. That's it. It's money and power. Almost everything in life comes down to that. Corruption starts with money and power.
Real quick, at Catholic Charities.
Wait. Who said charities?
So I track Catholic Charities. I got in a bunch of the shelters. I got FOIAs. Catholic Charities is responsible for putting these illegals up in apartments. They're paying for the utility, ComEd, people's gas. They're supposed to be loving and caring. They're getting paid for it. One Venezuelan woman wanted to go back home. And Catholic Charities said it's not our mission because they weren't getting paid to send them back home. But they'll get paid to put them from Chicago to New York to Miami if they want to. So and I'm a Catholic, so that's Catholic Charities.
Yeah, and actually that's a really great point. We had some whistleblowers that came to us that were part of this. They were a third party that were contracted out by all of the NGOs. So they were basically contracted transportation to move the unaccompanied minors. And the same woman who was a part of that program, she said when President Trump was in office, when Barack Obama was in office, we couldn't do biometric testing on children or the illegals that were bringing them across. The ACLU sued, said it was an invasion of their privacy. President Trump came into office and said that's insane. Border Patrol came to him and said, the worst case that I saw was in Yuma, Arizona. One child they called it recycled. So it was used by men to come across the border. The cartels own that child. Sometimes they're sold by their parents. Sometimes they're captured. Sometimes they're homeless kids in the streets. The cartel sells that child, or rents them to an illegal that's coming across, who's been coached by the same NGOs, that you have an easier time. There's a loophole if you come across as a family unit. That's one of these things that they're trying to push the Supreme Court to decide on. And if this goes through, we're going to see another mass invasion. So they were all being taught that if you have a child, you'll have an easier time coming in. So they recycle them. The kid comes across, they rape them, they do whatever they want to them, and they send them back to the cartel on both sides of the border. One child was recycled in the Yuma, Arizona detention center 13 times. This was before biometric testing. They knew it was happening, but they couldn't, by privacy standards or privacy concerns, do anything about it. President Trump came in and said, that stops. And so he actually got that ordinance, the judge's order, revoked, and they started doing biometric testing. Biden got back in office. My same friend who I interviewed about the trafficking said that they not only stopped doing the biometric testing, they previously used to do background checks on everybody that was in the house that they were sending these children to, but they were told they couldn't do that anymore, and so they would send them out. And the whistleblower that came to us that was part of these transportation companies said they actually had memos, email memos saying, hey, we're sending these kids to people that we know are not their parents, that we believe they're being trafficked, and they were told to shut up or else they're going to lose their funding. And that's when they actually came to us and said, hey, we can't do this anymore. So it's all money. It's all money. It's all money and power.
Do you believe there will be a civil war? Our states are so divided. Can they ever come together?
Man, it's tough. I mean, even our Republican Party is so divided. I mean, you've got some of these crazies out there. And again, I avoid those two things, division and distraction, so I rarely talk. I rarely get involved in any of the insanity. But, if we don't come together, I mean, we are no longer the United States of America. We are the divided states of America. We are the divided communities of America. We are the divided parties of America. And I think outside of God's hand and revival across this nation, I think it's hopeless. But again, I'm a Christian, and I believe in God miracles, and so I believe there is what we saw with Charlie Kirk. We saw revival start to spread, and then almost immediately you saw these nut jobs coming out and start attacking Charlie Kirk, and all of that. Just that to me was the devil getting in and saying, "I see what you're doing. I'm going to try to stop that." I pray that revival continues to spread, and that's the only solution. And ultimately, it's the only solution. It's the only reason we're here. If you don't know the Lord, that's the purpose in life. Get that right, or else you're wasting your time on everything else.
Can you speak to the single male Chinese who crossed the border illegally? Numbers, actions being taken, and whoever wrote this, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so
numbers and
so at low estimates, 100,000 CCP members came across during Joe Biden's term. These are foreign spies coming from China intentionally to undermine our country. That's a low estimate, 100,000. Where they are, what our HSI is doing to track them down, I honestly haven't heard much. And it's one of the questions, actually, I just got asked a couple days ago. It's a question that I'm looking for answers for, because they're all over our country. In fact, a lot of the protests, you see the so-called pro-Palestinian. Isn't that ironic, though? I don't want to get off course, but these same rabid feminist leftists will put a hijab on their head and march around for a religion that actually means subjugation. The same people that don't want to be told what to do by man are out there marching for a religion that is subjugation. So when you saw Columbia University, you saw NYU and all these protests, Palestinian, a huge amount of that money was coming from the CCP. That was going in through the Confucius Institutes on our college campuses across America, that was working with the Iranian regime, that was funding a lot of this. So a lot of this, it's not organic. Almost all of it is not organic. Some of it's homegrown, communist. It's the Democratic Socialists of America. If we want to infiltrate somewhere, we need infiltrators. Democratic Socialists of America, if you can stomach it, you have kids, grandkids, you can do it. We got to go into these places, we got to film them, we got to expose them. The Revolutionary Communists of America, that's a big thing now. You see them with the big hammer and sickle flags, red flags. They don't even hide it. They used to hide it. Barack Obama kind of opened, that was one of the other things that Barack Obama, I guess two things. So he gave us Trump, but he also, because his kryptonite, basically he could do no wrong, he pulled back the veil and showed us really what the Democrat Party was all about. Before that, they pretended to love America. They pretended to be capitalists. Really, they're communists. They're really the fascists. They call us fascists. Really, it's this anarcho-fascist combination that they are now. All of that, they've got to be held. They've got to be held accountable. So.
Debbie, could I ask that one question, or those two questions from that?
Were you the one that wrote that? Do you have terrible penmanship?
No. So what happened was, I got a call this afternoon because of your efforts downtown.
Yeah.
And so the person that got the card, her name's Samantha, and she has been to our food pantry. So we try to have a balance, right? Speak the truth in love, doctrinal, and have it balanced. So we have a food pantry. We don't ask people immigration status, we don't ask them income. So she was disappointed in me. And so we had a conversation, but I invited her here. She didn't want to come, or she couldn't. But then I said, hey, if you ask questions, I'll have Ben answer them, and I'll send you the video. So here's someone that has been downstairs at our food pantry that I've prayed with, and when I was talking to her, she goes, oh no, you love all people, because I've seen Muslims come, I've seen you talk with them, ask them for prayer. So this first question is verbatim as she asked it. And so she said, should we show mercy to children being deported the way the Pharaoh's daughter showed mercy on Moses when he was deported to the Nile River? It's question one. Question two, is Greater Grace Community Church an organization harboring illegals if they feed and give them clothes?
Great questions. Let me answer the first one. And I'd love your response also as the pastor on both of those. So the Nile, Moses, they weren't deporting him, they were going to murder him. There's a slight difference between murdering a child and sending them back to their home country. I would say that, but it is a good question. I don't want to murder children. That goes from the womb to the tomb. And what I have seen, and this is why I show those videos, what I have seen is the most compassionate thing you can do is do legal immigration, process people appropriately, and this idea that when they talk about separating children, what that means is, what they're saying is, they have an illegal alien parent, and they may be illegal aliens themselves. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. I pray that the Supreme Court gets the birthright citizenship right. Shouldn't be able to just come over to our country, have a kid, and that kid automatically gets citizenship, especially if you hate this nation. There are people coming from various purposes. About 10% of our current births that are happening right now are people flying in to have or coming across the border to have those babies. That's not sustainable. But I don't blame the children. It's very simple. I would ask the question back, when you're sending an illegal alien home, is it more compassionate to send that child with that parent or leave that child here alone? It's very simple to me as a father. My kids are coming with me. I mean, it's really the most uncompassionate is for the parents to abandon their kids and then blame our government for separating them. Every single deportation, whether you're legal or illegal, you have the option to take your entire immediate family with you. So they can, if it's the dad that's here and the rest of the family is legal or they just won't set for deportation, maybe they are illegal, but again, ICE is prioritizing the worst. The entire family, at our expense, can be sent all together back to their home country. And then they can, if they haven't broken the law to a point where they can't reapply for legally entering the country, they can start that process. That is humane. Saying, parents, you go, keep this kid here, and then blame the government for separating them, that is not humane. Second part of the question, can you repeat that?
Sure. Is Greater Grace Community Church an organization?
Oh, great. Okay. Yes, by feeding and clothing. Clearly not. For the exact purpose, exactly what you said, you don't check. And I don't believe you're called to check as a church. Now, if you were knowingly, it's the difference between intent. So a lot of this, I'm not an attorney, but I look at the question in these terms. There's a difference, and it's like lying. Boil it down real simply. If I knowingly lie to you, it's one thing. If I do something and I don't know the answer to the question, and you may suspect, you've got people who come through here, I don't believe it's your job to be immigration enforcement. I believe it's the church's job to love people as Christ loved the church. As husbands, that means we're called to lay down our lives for our wives. As wives, that means we're called to respect our husbands. And as the body of Christ, it means to love everybody as Christ loved them. Part of that is being honest with them. And I love what you did here, because you're not sugarcoating it by saying, we support illegal immigration, but we're also not going to turn you away if we're not checking IDs, which is not your job to do, if you come here and you need food, and you need love, and you need prayer. Because again, I don't blame the illegals nearly as much as I blame the people that lied to them and invited them here. But I would still say the same thing. If I found out you're here illegally, I would recommend that you do everything you can to fix your status. Because otherwise, if you're deported, it's not my fault, it's not the church's fault, it's your fault if you're an adult. And if you're a child, it's your parents' fault.
And if I may, just
yeah.
I'd love
anything on top of that.
Yeah, because your videos are so true. On multiple occasions, I've had people in absolute distress, torn apart because they got a call from one of their family members that was trying to come through the border, and they were kidnapped and they were being raped, and they changed the price. So this is true what you speak of, and it's not an easy thing, and we do have to get through this. And so I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate what Three-Headed Eagle is doing, And whatever cost it is, it's the cost of speaking the truth in love. So thank you.
Yeah. And the bottom line is Jesus loves them all. Jesus loves me, he loves you, he loves even the people out here that are hard to love. He says love our enemies. It's easy to love the people you love and you like. It's really hard. That part about loving your enemies is very difficult. But he calls us to do that to the point where Christ laid down his life for us even though we were sinners. And that's all of us. That's everyone. So there is no, again, I have no ill feelings towards people that are here illegally. Just like I have no ill feelings towards people that committed crimes. If you're a murderer, I believe in capital punishment. As a Christian, I believe if you take a life, you chose to take your own. And so that's the way I look at that. And I also believe that our government is the sword of justice. And so it's not the church's job to say, you have all these compassionate Christians out there saying, oh, you can't do any of these things. Well, that is our government's job, is to stop evil, to wield the sword of justice in the world.
The next question is, what made them remove Bovino? What was it, pressure from the public?
Yeah, so unfortunately, you had two people do two stupid things that got them killed. And this is actually, you guys all need to take one of these cards. We're going to be mailing these. So this is our Frontline America Foundation. We have a nonprofit, 501c3. It's a Christian organization that's focused on sharing the truth about law enforcement. It's ICE, Border Patrol, and law enforcement across America. And so there's QR codes on here that tell you the stats. So if you go to that QR code, it'll give you stats on ICE, news updates, worst of the worst. And on the back, it's just got some helpful hints. This is the one that they were so upset about that I dropped off at the mayor's office yesterday. And the first one just says, if you don't want to be shot, don't try to run over ICE. And that's just words of wisdom. And also, if you don't want to be shot, don't take a gun and try to get in a fight with ICE or Border Patrol. Unfortunately, it's the same thing with George Floyd. There's a reason why a lot of this stuff is, the epicenter is Minneapolis. Minneapolis, my estimation, having been to almost every part of our country, it's the worst in our country right now because it has the combination of those three things, the three-legged stool I talked about, the communists, the jihadists, and the cartel that are all operating in the highest numbers that I've seen anywhere other city. Chicago's really bad, it's a close second, but Minneapolis is probably the worst. And the worst part is, I believe, when both of those things happened, the happiest people were the leftists themselves that then had another victim that they could go and attack. And unfortunately, a big reason why that approach of the consensual encounter stopped in Bovino, which was so effective, was directly a result of what happened in Minneapolis.
Should we be pursuing the employers who hired the illegals?
Yes.
If so, why isn't that happening?
Yes. It is happening to some extent. Most states don't have laws. This was shocking to me when ICE told me this. Most states don't have laws that make it criminal for a business to knowingly hire an illegal. Now, if you unknowingly hire an illegal, so you've heard of E-Verify. A lot of states have E-Verify, and if you knowingly hire somebody in a state that requires E-Verify and you broke the law to get that person in, you can be prosecuted. Most states don't have that. And so you can go in, and so what you see most of the time is you got a meat packing. I'm from Arkansas now. Grew up I forgot to tell you that. We escaped California, we're refugees. We've now moved back to America and we live in Arkansas. Partly because I had some of these same demonic, crazy people showing up at my house threatening my family, and I thought, if I have to protect my family and I have to shoot one of these people, I want to be in a state that actually upholds my right to self-defense. Arkansas is a great place. Eric B. Sanders is awesome. I can't say more highly about it, but Arkansas is not perfect, and we've got a lot of meat packers. There's 4 major meat packers and what's the name? Harvesters, there's a name for it. There's a conglomerate of 4 of them that basically run America, and they use a lot of illegal immigration. And so ICE will go in, and they'll round a lot of people up, and they'll deport them, or they'll pull them out, but they don't do anything to the employers because, again, most states don't have laws making it a crime to knowingly hire an illegal. That has to change. So that comes through every state legislature needs to have that, and or, again, you have to have federal prosecution that doesn't exist right now that would allow that, outside of certain specific instances.
This question might be similar to your other question. Do you agree pastors are hopefully not ever afraid to reveal to their people the reality of what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we're here because we've got weak, neutered pastors across America. That care, again, going back, not here, but a lot of pastors in America care more about making sure these seats are full, regardless of if the gospel being preached, the truth is being preached, because that means more money potentially, or they just feel like they're, I can't speak for all pastors, but a lot of it is they care more about keeping the church full than they do about God's call for that church and for them in their life. And really, none of this gets changed, none of this gets fixed unless we have courageous. During the Revolution, they were called Black Regiment pastors. They were the pastors that actually told their flock. At the beginning of the Revolution, there were a lot of individuals that thought, okay, we shouldn't be involved in this pacifist. Black Regiment came and actually from the pulpit said, this is a duty, this is a noble fight. And many of them actually went off to fight in the Revolution, and many of their parishioners went with them. We need that same level of understanding of the battle of good versus evil that we're in, and pastors to be able to very simply communicate. I mean, not be preaching sin. Some of these places that call themselves churches, when they're preaching the LGBT, it's the gospel of LGBT, it's directly contradictory to God's word. If you're preaching all of the illegal immigration, you're directly contradictory to God's word. So it starts there, and then everything else comes from that. And then you build, so it starts in the church, then you have to have families. Again, this is where I was totally ineffective as an addict because I wasn't honoring my wife. As now we're one as a couple, now we can raise up a strong family. We homeschool our girls, then we raise up children. Those children become the seeds that then end up going and countering the evil that's out there. Starts in the church, it goes to the family, and then it goes out. If we don't get that foundation right, again, we can come in here and talk about all the things that are wrong, but we're not going to fix anything.
That leads right exactly into something I want you to answer. When you were here last time, you had your 3 children, and one was a baby.
Yeah.
And then you had the middle and then the older. So I'm sitting at the table, and your middle one, she's a little spunky, and she said, Olivia, and she says, how come he's not talking about Pelosi? And how little would she have been?
5, I think 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5. So I think something that is to his point is, and I was dying, I'm like, well, it's your dad, maybe you ought to talk to him and say what he ought to talk about. But what you said is you talk at the table about all of these issues.
Yeah.
So if you want to say that.
No, look, we are called to do it. Our schools aren't designed to raise our children. The government is not designed to raise your children. God has ordained you as a husband and you as a wife to raise your children. And if you want them to be raised right, correct, that means you have to speak life into them. You have to raise them by godly principles. And it doesn't guarantee the outcome, but the Bible says the chances are much higher that you're going to have good kids if you raise them right. Now again, I was raised by preachers' kids. My dad was a pastor and a missionary. My mom was a nurse. They prayed for me a whole lot, and then I went off track for a while. But they kept praying for me and God brought me back on track. So and I want to make that encouragement too. Even if you have kids that are off track, and maybe you did all the right things, doesn't mean you did it wrong. We're all imperfect, but keep praying for them, keep loving them, keep speaking into their life. You are the most important person to change your children, to bring them back. That to me as a husband, I do all this stuff. I travel, I enjoy my life. Sometimes I don't as much with some of the people. I'm blessed to be able to do what I do, but none of it matters if this country falls and I don't have a place for my daughters to grow up in that had the blessings that I had. And I just want to make this too. It's really easy to get down. For a long time, it's really easy to complain. Unfortunately, a lot of these people out here are just miserable inside. They're empty on the inside. They have this huge hole inside of them and they fill it with all the wrong things. Again, in my experience, the only thing that actually fills and sustains and gives joy is a relationship with God and understanding your purpose in life. They don't have that, and so they fill it with everything else. I look at where we're at as a nation, and I see all of that misery. We are called to be light. If we aren't hopeful and aspirational and not complaining. So God put it on my heart a couple years ago. I used to complain a lot, and sometimes I still do. Speaking close. My daughters, one day I came out. I think Chloe was like 4, and she said, "Those dang Democrats." And I was like, I didn't even know she had been listening to me. I don't even know what she made her say that. And that's okay. But I got to a point where I was like, God really put it on my heart to every day wake up and say, thank you, Lord. Thank you for the air that I breathe. Thank you for another day. Thank you for this miracle that is life. The fact that I have the 21 clotting factors that prevent me from bleeding out if I get cut. My eyes, my sight, my breath, the good things in my life, my wife, my family, this country, and the bad things in life that are struggles because they make me appreciate all the good things. If you start your life, if you start your day, if you spend your time on thanking God for the blessings in your life, the other things will not be nearly as bad. And not to say that there aren't bad things. We all have a finite time on this earth. But every single moment is a blessing. And we need to remember that they aren't promised, but every moment is a blessing. And so I pray that over you guys. In Jesus' name, I just pray a blessing on this nation. Lord, I pray on this crowd here that's with us. Lord, I pray you bless and keep them. You make your face to shine upon them. You be gracious unto them. You lift up your countenance upon them. And you give them your peace. And I pray that we would raise up a generation of lions, of warriors, for your kingdom first, Lord, and for this nation and the nations of the world second. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. On that note, thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Ben. What an inspiration.